Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beer and Money. My name is Ryan Burklo,
And I'm Alex Collins.
and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about an umbrella policy. Specifically, what is it and why you think you might want to consider getting one. But before we dive into that topic, Mr. Collins, I already heard you open up your lovely beverage. What are you drinking today?
So this is from Single Hill over in Yakima. This is Eastside IPA. So it clocks in at 6.8. It's just a good IPA.
Have you had it before?
Mm-hmm. I have. It's a little bit on the lighter side. It's a little bit more refreshing. Not less to hit you in the face with the hops, but
Gotcha.
it's really good.
So I was at the store the other day, and this logo caught me. At first, I thought it was a Mac and Jack can. It's similar to Mac and Jack with the gold and everything. But then I noticed it's from Hood River, and it's a brewery called Freem, I think is how you pronounce it. But it's another IPA. I just took my first sip there, and it sounds like it's similar to what you just had. It's definitely not a hit you in the face IPA with the hops. More refreshing for sure. So definitely something I can envision maybe in the summertime than the winter. But it's actually pretty solid. Have you heard of them before?
Yeah.
No. Well, have you had it before then?
I haven't had that particular one, but I've had a couple Freem beers.
Gotcha.
It's good brewery.
Cool. So, anyways, Freem and single barrel. What was yours called again?
Single Hill.
Single Hill. So make sure you guys check them out. So let's dive into today's episode. It's let's just call it what it is, Alex. It's not the most fun and exciting conversation to have. We're going to liven it up with the classic Burklo Collins banter back and forth.
While it's not the most intellectually invigorating, it is something that is absolutely critical. And how many clients have you had come to you with an umbrella policy already?
I think it might be like 30%, maybe as high as 40%, but I would say over 60% do not have this policy.
Yeah, I would say maybe 10 to 20% of my clients have it, or half the time, I've gotten to the point where I'll ask the question of, hey, do you know what an umbrella policy is? And
Yep.
most of the time I get the answer of no. Okay, cool. We can you don't have one. We can just move on.
Well, it's funny that a lot of times I get I've heard of it, or maybe my auto and home insurance agent tried to get me to buy one of those or something like that. But yeah, a lot of people don't have this. And so we want to dive into that because we think it's actually a pretty important policy to consider. And the cost standpoint is it's really not that pricey of a policy. So before we dive into what it is, again, when we talk about protection, we're wanting to make sure that we are protecting really the income, right? Our cash flow. Because without this, we're not paying our bills, we're not getting to our goals, we're not building assets, right? And even in retirement, now it's affecting lifestyle, right? So our cash flow is always going to be king.
Right. Well, and cash flow, whether it is cash flow now or assets that are going to create cash flow in the future, because when we talk about an umbrella policy, most of the time we're actually talking about it from an asset standpoint. It's really designed around what does this mean for the future you? This is as big of a conversation with your future self as retirement savings. It'll have that big of an impact.
So what is the umbrella policy? So an umbrella policy is considered like an extra layer of liability insurance that goes above and beyond your current standard insurance policies, your auto and home insurance policies, right? And so what happens is this. I'm going to give you a very simplistic example. Imagine you're in a car accident and the other person is at fault. And the other person's auto insurance policy covers up to $300,000 for bodily injury or damages per incident. Okay. You're the one that got hit. You've got your spouse, and your two kids in the back seat. So there's 4 people in the car. If each one of you had a broken pinky, and that broken pinky was $100,000 of medical damage, so that means there's $400,000 of medical damage, right? $100,000 per person. What the other party's auto insurance policy would cover is up to $300,000, meaning one of you is not being covered by the auto insurance policy. And likely what that means is there might be a lawsuit coming their way, the other party's way, that is. Okay, that's a simplistic example around how the auto insurance policy works. Take it a step further. If you are the driver and you can no longer, you have to miss work for a certain amount of days, maybe even months due to PT, who knows? Do you think that you might sue or consider getting some sort of money back for the loss of income that you might incur?
Yeah.
The answer to that question is yeah. Right? So again, the $300,000 policy that the other person has, they don't have that. So what are you going to go after? You're going to go after, or the insurance, the lawyer in this example might go after assets. And in the state of Washington, they can actually come after your income. Meaning if the other party's making $400,000 a year, now you might be able to, essentially the lawyer might say, okay, a certain percentage of that income is now going to go to my client because my client can't work as often as they used to work. And they have these things called bills to pay.
Ryan, but like I listen to you and I have uninsured or underinsured motorist that's going to cover me from the other person. So I'm good up to 500.
Okay, so you're good up to 500. So what's the lawsuit that might be though, right? So if you miss 6 months of work and you make $200,000, $400,000, whatever that is, and you can sue for half of that amount, plus the medical damage, plus everything else, are they going to be covered fully by that?
So what you're saying is what happens when this goes over their limits and now your uninsured or underinsured limits.
And I'll take it a step further. Do you want to file a claim with your uninsured limits?
I mean, it's better than the alternative.
It's better than the alternative, but what's going to happen is you're going to file the uninsured claim. Your insurance company is then going to go to the other insurance company or the other party to try to get paid back.
Right.
In the end, now your auto insurance policy next year might go up. Your personal auto insurance policy might go up next year because you filed a claim. So this is where an umbrella policy comes in. Umbrella policy is a policy that goes above and beyond your current auto insurance limits in this example, but it can cover above and beyond your home insurance limits, your boat insurance limits, your RV insurance limits, whatever type of insurance policies you have out there, goes above and beyond those limits. And it's typically sold in $1 million increments, meaning in this example, if the other party had the $1 million umbrella policy, they'd have $1 million there plus the 300,000 in the auto, so 1.3. Now, as we go through this, now you have $1 million and 1.3, so now you have additional coverage. A common question we get is, well, that sounds great, Ryan. What's the cost of that? Again, I can't give you exact cost because it's really dependent on your driving record. There's a bunch of variables that go into that, but depending on driving record, if you have, kids that are driving like myself, right? It could be somewhere between, call it $16 a month and like $30 a month or something like that, depending on a couple of different variables. So when you add that up, 16 or $30 a month for $1 million umbrella policy, that's huge. And it's not very expensive.
So what you're saying is if you ever run into this type of a situation, it's one of these insurances that you would way rather have than not have because one claim pays for the entire policy for your lifetime for the most part. I mean, I'm sure somebody will create an exception, but in general, like if you have one claim, you're going to wind up, well ahead.
Exactly. And to take it a step further, like I'll give you my personal example. I've got a 16-year-old daughter driving around and I'm about to have a 16-year-old son driving around. They're driving around in a car that I own. And I'm liable for them. Yeah, I kind of want to have an additional policy covering my 16-year-old, especially my son, and that driving, because I don't want, A, my assets touched, and B, I definitely don't want my income touched. And it's worth the extra money, even if this policy is $1,000 a year. I'm paying $1,000 a year. I'll just let you know like that, but I've got 2 kids, right? Driving, right? I'll pay $1,000 a year. No problem at all. And my policy is covering, I think my policy is coming up to 5 million of umbrella policy, which brings me actually to a good point here. A lot of questions we'll get is, well, how much should I get? Well, at least get enough to cover what your assets are worth. So in this example that you're seeing on the screen, it's 2.5 million. And maybe even add a buffer. Like for this client, I might suggest 3 because you got 400 in income and 2.5 in total assets. That being said, this is where you need to talk to your auto and home insurance because you need to see if you can get approved for that dollar amount. The crazy thing is insurance companies are not wanting to be on the hook for millions of dollars anymore.
Right.
And they're getting harder to get. So you might get limited to what you can get in terms of this type of policy.
I mean, in general, what we'd do is we'd recommend, let's go get a quote for at least $1 million. Let's go get a quote for making sure that you've got more coverage than your assets, and ask the insurance agent, what's the most that I can qualify for? And like, what are the requirements to go get that policy? Because you might qualify for, say, 10, but like it's a royal pain in the butt to jump through all the hoops that you need to, and it might be more expensive or whatever else. So like, ask the question to figure out the details. And then also you want whoever your auto and home person is to actually be an advisor and provide advice to you and give you some suggestions on like, okay, what should I do here? But like, at least go find out the information so that you can make an informed decision.
This is why your financial advisor and your auto and home insurance agent and your estate planning attorney and the brother-in-law who thinks he knows everything should be talking with one another and communicating, because one person may not be the expert in every arena, but if you can get the expert team around you, now you don't have to be making the decisions from the standpoint of like where to get the knowledge. They should be providing you this and then working together to get this handled for you.
For sure.
So that was today's episode. I hope it was, I hope it was good for everyone listening. Like, this is a policy I think you should definitely get. We're driving around in an automobile, right? That could be, how many times are you staring down at the radio, or dare I say at your phone, and you looked up and you almost rear-ended the person ahead of you, right? So like, this stuff happens, you know it, I know it. And while the likelihood of a lawsuit coming your way may not be that high, if it does, it's devastating. Which takes us to the question of the day, Mr. Collins.
The question today is, what type of protection do you have in the event that you get sued?
Yep. So head over to beerandmoney.net. And at the top of the page, there's a contact us button up there where you can reach out to us with either questions from today's episode, or if you have a topic on your mind that you want to make sure we chat about, that's a great way to reach out to us. Matter of fact, we had our first one, not our first one, but we had one the other day that came through. So that's going to be our topic for next week. But we hope this episode is valuable for you. There's a link in our show notes if you want any kind of checkup for your own personal financial situation, where it gives you a scorecard at the end. So make sure you check out that link if you have any questions there. So, Mr. Collins, take us away.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Quantified Financial Partners, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. This material is intended for general public use. By providing this content, Park Avenue Securities LLC is not undertaking to provide investment advice or a recommendation for any specific individual or situation, or to otherwise act in a fiduciary capacity. Please contact a financial representative for guidance and information that is specific to your individual situation. Ryan and Alex are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities LLC, OSJ 200 Market Street, Suite 1850, Portland, Oregon 97201. Phone number 503-221-1226. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, member FINRA, SIPC. Financial representatives of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Quantified Financial Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian. Ryan Burklo, CA Insurance License Number 0K24924. Alexander Collins, CA Insurance License Number 0H24806.
7675905.1. Expiration date February 2027.